Hi everyone, we're Magpie Media, and this is an evaluation question. The three of us doing a live chat right now. We're going to be discussing the technology that we used as part of this production for pre-production and the production period. We have Melissa and Ed. Melissa has written a list with all the stuff that we've used, and we're just going to talk through our personal experiences with all the equipment and technology that we've used. So, one of you want to kick us off?
Right, yeah, so the first one on this list is the website SurveyMonkey, which we used in pre-production to get a sense of who our target audience would be.
It was kind of, we used it as initial, just to find out people in our area, just initial response to what target audience we would actually have to focus on before we started any kind of production.
We also posted the SurveyMonkey onto Facebook, so that it reached a wide range of people in order to establish a target audience.
And that ended up working pretty well. We got lots of people, we got up to about 50 responses, which we weren't expecting, and a variety of ages as well, so we could see what the people of different generations would expect.
It got to a lot of different people, so it was a very general and fair target audience that we could aim for. It wasn't like we were just going to people like our age. It wasn't just focused on teenagers, it was everyone.
And because we had so many results, we were able to do quite a deep analysis on our findings, which meant that we could kind of generate some statistics on which we could base kind of the different elements of our video, like, you know, the lighting and the shot types and the narrative and the performance aspects.
Yeah, for example, a lot of people liked music videos that used black and white, or music videos that use natural sunset kind of lighting and that kind of camera work.
So yeah, anything that fitted with our target audience that we found out, we could use the factors that they preferred more and make sure they appeared more heavily in the video.
We used the website YouGov,
which we were able to investigate other bands which were working in a similar genre to the Tranquilite who we were working with, and we could find patterns in their target audiences to find out if that kind of linked to what we found from our survey. Which it did really. We found a lot of similarities.
And we were able to use the combination of the direct kind of primary research that we done and the secondary research from YouGov to create a primary and secondary target audience, which we thought was pretty accurate and representative of what the audience of the band would be. We also used YouTube to watch a lot of similar videos to gain ideas about the conventions used within the genre. So we watched videos such as Maroon 5's Harder to Breathe, which was then kind of directly influencing our own camera work, which we used in the performance aspects of the video. So that was a really good kind of media platform that we were able to utilise.
Go on to publish our actual video and stuff on YouTube as well, and be able to get our final video out to our target audience through YouTube as well. Obviously, we've had a few issues with that.
Yeah, unfortunately, because of licensing issues, we weren't allowed to post the song on YouTube for the band, which was definitely inconvenient, but we kind of managed to work around it using private links to make sure that we could still get the video from Final Cut to our blogs, but without kind of putting it on public domain.
And we could also get it out to our target audience for them to see and kind of give us feedback for the work that we've done.
Yeah, just to add to that as well, we used YouTube throughout pretty much every step of the process as well. It was pretty much the first thing we did in this unit in terms of watching videos and, you know, just getting familiar with the format of media products. But then also later on, we used it for reference with editing. We used it for reference in terms of colour shifts, which was something we were looking to do in post-production. And some music videos by similar bands in the same genre actually helped us figure out what's the best way to do that.
We also used throughout the process Blogger to basically document the entire process. We embedded all the YouTube videos that we'd used as audience and band and kind of just general video convention research, and we managed to kind of do analysis on them, which we were then able to refer back to throughout the process through our documentation of it on Blogger. So that was a really useful tool for kind of building ideas.
And then obviously we could look back on it all, and it just helps keep everything very focused. We never really lost concentration with it because we always had it back to refer to.
And we also it's a common one to kind of forget about, but we used Google a lot, just researching similar bands and researching information about our band as well.
We also used PowerPoint during the pitch of the video. So in the planning process, we had to kind of develop some initial ideas which we were going to then present to the class in order to pitch the idea, and we used PowerPoint for that. We were able to kind of get some pictures of similar bands, similar ideas, and put them all into one presentation which we could then talk through to the class. We used kind of technology like screenshots, and we even managed to kind of gradually add colour throughout the presentation to demonstrate how we would do that through the video. So that was a pretty effective use of media foam to enable us to visually illustrate our points. We also, in the planning process, used numbers on Macs in order to create different shot lists, and we also kind of timetables for shooting, documenting the different props we need, the actors, the equipment, in order to organise our shooting schedule and to help us plan how we were going to construct the video.
Saves a lot of time in the production process because we knew exactly what we were doing each day. We could just get on set and get on with it straight away. There was no kind of having to discuss what we were going to move on to. So it really helped speed up and keep the process just flowing nicely.
We also used Blogger throughout the planning process to, when we were location scouting, we would take photos and then upload them onto the blogs so that when it came to kind of creating the shooting schedule, we could refer back to everything that we'd already seen, ideas, and then we were able to put those into location aspects to plan our time around them.
My phone was really helpful for that, actually, because we knew we wanted to film in Leeds. That was something we found out pretty early on. So every time I walked through Leeds and found a location that I thought, was, that could work as a location for our video, that looks really interesting, I could take a picture of it and just send it either through email or onto Blogger or through text to people in our group really instantly. So that was something really useful.
I mean, and again, another kind of basic thing, but being able to be in a group conversation enabled us to share a lot of information and ideas. Like the location scouting, we were all able to instantly give feedback when we got sent a picture, which enabled us to kind of build our ideas faster. And also, we created a storyboard, which we did on paper, which we were then able to use a scanner to scan in to a computer to enable us to put all of those pictures that we had drawn and annotated on our blogs digitally to enable them to be more easily transported when we were going shooting. So we could look at what different shot types we had drawn and then recreate them with the camera.
Although the scanning caused a few problems because some of the settings, you have to work out the settings to make it perfect for what we were actually scanning through, so it took a while to find the perfect balance that actually brought out the best of the pictures that we were scanning. So there was a few issues with that, a bit time consuming, but overall it worked well.
Came to the actual construction of the video, we used DSLR cameras to actually film on, and then there was kind of a lot of learning involved with how to use them, the best way to kind of set them up for the different environments that we were in. I know that was a big learning curve when we were shooting the band footage because that was a very dark environment, unfortunately. We didn't have much control over that, so we just had to turn up and work with whatever the band had kind of provided us with. So that's when we had to really think about how we were going to set up the cameras to get the best image possible.
Filming the narrative version with the cameras as well had a few challenges because we had to correct white balance and ISO because in one shoot day we'd go from day to night or indoor to outdoor scenes, and all of that means the camera settings have to all be completely different. So yeah, we had to learn which were the correct settings for the correct environment, and especially when we were in Leeds we were filming just as it was going dark, so each shot we took had to be slightly corrected somehow so they all kind of look like they're in the same moment, because otherwise it's just slowly progressively getting dark throughout the whole thing. So that took a while to sort out and a lot of learning, as you said.
Another example of something that I learned as well was we realised that by turning the ISO down and the exposure down even and making it darker than we generally would be, we got a lot of lens flare, which looked really nice in a few places. So we used that outside the streets in Leeds to get some kind of blurry lights, and we used it as well in the location of the house where the sun's shining through the window to make it look nicer.
And when we were filming the band performance footage, we had 3 different camera setups, and what was really important, which we learnt when we were kind of figuring out how we're going to film the performance parts of the video, was that all the cameras needed to be set up exactly the same way. Otherwise, when you cut between the different shots, you're going to have a slightly different image. So that was something that we were really conscious about as we were using that particular piece of technology in that moment, was to make sure that all three of those cameras were set up with exactly the same settings.
Yeah, and the frames per second array as well, something we had to look at, the exposure settings as well, and white balance.
And as well as DSLRs, we also had to use a GoPro for one shot. We did the time-lapse of the money going into the jar. We had to use the GoPro to be able to make the time-lapse look effective, because the DSLRs, that's not what they're used for. So we also had to find a few settings and work out how to actually work GoPros, because none of us had ever used one before. So we had to work out how they work.
We also did practice shoots with the GoPro for that particular moment with the money going into the jar. We did practices on different time intervals for when the kind of images were going to be taken. We ended up going with 1 frame per second, the final decision, but we tried a variety of different ones to see what would be the best to get the best effect in that.
I mean,
shot.
The problem with having a bigger gap between like shots being taken is the overall scene itself. To just put the money in the jar didn't take long, so if there were further gaps between, the time lapse itself would only last a couple of seconds and then wouldn't fit to what we'd put in the storyboard, and wouldn't look as effective as kind of trying to prolong it as much as the time lapse can be. So we definitely had the correct time intervals.
Also, when it came to kind of the editing of the footage that we had collected, especially kind of things to do with the band shoot, which unfortunately had been quite dark, when we then uploaded the footage into Final Cut, we were able to use colour corrections within the app itself to kind of improve the quality of the footage. So kind of increasing the light tones within the frame and decreasing the dark ones. And especially when we were putting different shots into black and white, we would kind of up the whites and lower the darks to create a really kind of a more stark contrast, which created a nicer black and white image.
Yeah, some of the band were wearing clothes that were a similar colour to the walls behind them as well. So changing the colour correction as well helped us to kind of, help them to stand out more as well. In filming as well, there was a lot of equipment that we had to use as well as the cameras themselves. So just tripods is the first one that we thought of. We had to obviously set those up, make sure they were level. And one of them, at one point, we realised had a leg that was slightly broken, so it kept slanting as we were filming. So we had to make sure that we kept a strict eye on making sure the shot didn't move mid-shot.
When we were editing in Final Cut as well, we decided to actually buy the song on iTunes and import it directly in order to get the best sound quality possible, rather than trying to use sound that we'd recorded ourselves during the band shoot, because we thought it would be much better quality if we got the official recording. So we were able to kind of take it from iTunes and put it into Final Cut in order to get that best product.
When filming the band, we weren't obviously using a microphone, so we would have had to depend on the sound quality from the camera itself, and it's not designed to pick up sound particularly well, so it was definitely the correct choice to actually get the song, because then it obviously sounds a bit crisper, better quality sound.
We used the song from iTunes as well when we were recording the band, so they played over the actual recorded song, which meant that they were in time. All the musicianship was perfectly synced with the music, and it meant that when we used the actual iTunes track, it aligned itself properly.
Yeah, that meant that our lip syncing was much more accurate than if we'd have kind of just let the band to roll for themselves, because you have a tendency to speed up or slow down. So that decision definitely helped us to get a much more accurate match to the actual timings of the song.
And we had to use a speaker and a jack lead as well to make sure that it was loud enough and they could hear it.
And as Ed said at the beginning, we continued to use YouTube throughout the process, through the construction process, to upload rough cuts and then embed them into Blogger to document the process of the construction of it and the editing, so that we could see how far we'd come in each stage. We also used Photoshop and Illustrator in the creation of the digipack and the poster. That was, again, a big learning curve. None of us were particularly knowledgeable in that field before this process, so there was a lot to learn there.
Yeah. Melissa, I think now, might be putting up some of the examples of the original concept that I kind of drafted up.
Yeah.
This was when, so it'll be there now. I don't know which side it's on, but it's so that kind of can clearly show I was not proficient in any way with the technology. The picture's edited badly, the background's dodgy, there's a big chunk missing, and so it was kind of a learning process and learning what each function did, and we managed to end up with some really high quality pictures that we all liked.
Yeah, we managed to go from this, which is obviously our initial image. It's just a font that was provided by Photoshop, and it's a white background, and you can see obviously the next one, which was partway through the process. We had developed a lot more. Ed had spent a lot of time choosing a different magpie and being able to layer different images within the body of the magpie to create the image that we have here, which is very, very kind of complex compared to the original. And we managed to kind of select the pictures, which Ed managed to edit to get the kind of, I think it's Leeds Town Hall actually in the magpie's head, which was a really nice touch because the band wanted to represent Leeds in their video. So we managed to actually get the Leeds landscape into the digipack.
Yeah, and in that sense as well, that the final picture is much more coherent with the video we made as well, and the colourfulness of that, rather than being a kind of detached, separate thing.
Yeah, so this is the final image here. Obviously, we've got the colour in the magpie, and we added colour into the font, the Tranquilite text, which, as Ed said, links back into the slow introduction of colour within the video, which makes a more cohesive couple. And we also changed the background. We decided on a kind of concrete effect, which links to the more rough
homeless aspect, being on the streets, kind of just linking again to the actual narrative of the story.
Yeah. Ed also managed to find a font online rather than just using a stock one from Photoshop, which was much more in keeping with the whole tone of the digipack and worked much better than the stock ones which were provided.
And that was another resource technologically there as well, was a website that had thousands and thousands of fonts available that you could choose through and categorize to find. We used Illustrator as well to create the small Magpie Media band like record label logo, which is on the back of the digipack as well, and so that was a helpful device to kind of create that icon thing.
And we used the technologies also to create the poster, which I'm going to display on screen now. We obviously continued the use of the same text because this created, again, the cohesion between the digipack and the poster, the same image of the magpie for the same reason, and then we chose a simple sans serif text for the quotes because there's
the quotes that we also quotes that we found using news websites, because myself and Melissa went to one of Tranquilite's local gigs a few months ago and found this review of that gig, and were able to get actual quotes of what critics are thinking of this band, so it's making it more in keeping with the ideas behind a poster.
So we were really happy with the finished products, and you can see from the colours used, Ed managed to kind of get that cohesion between the actual digipack and the poster, and then that all linked really nicely back into the video through the colours and the imagery of the magpie, which is referred to in the song lyrics, and the overall tone of the kind of concrete effect which links to the homeless message. When it came to the evaluation, we used several different technologies in order to construct our evaluation answers. So we began with the question 1, where we just, I wrote kind of a transcript, just a straight up answer, which Ed was then...
Using Microsoft Word as well.
Yes, I used Microsoft Word. And then I was sent that via our group chat on iMessage to Ed, who was then able to create an iMovie using that as a script.
To get some of the clips from YouTube as well, I used Google Drive to download them to that. It's a really good kind of online storage resource to help me transfer files across from place to place.
So that we are really happy with that. It's a really effective way of showing our different influences and the final product, along with the theory and the evaluation that went along with the script. We are also, now we're using the website Skype to create a group chat, and we are screen recording on a Mac in order to record it, which we will then import onto another Mac to put onto our blog.
We thought this was the most effective way to kind of portray this question 4, because we all had different experiences using the technology, and this is the best way to kind of discuss our own personal kind of experiences around the technology, because we all either used different aspects, like we haven't all worked together on every piece, or if we have worked together, we've had different experiences or different opinions on the different pieces of technology that we've used. So we thought being able to come together and just discuss our experiences would be the best way to portray this this answer.
For example, I used GarageBand, an app to record a voiceover, and Apple's Music Memos app as well. I used the two of them to kind of get the clearest sounding voiceover I could for that evaluation question Melissa mentioned earlier. So, but chances are that Melissa and Rob didn't use that app, and in the same way, I do believe someone's using Prezi at some point to put together a presentation, and I might not be using that, or someone else might not be.
What's really good is we're kind of able to collaborate when it comes to kind of the writing process. So they're coming up with ideas. I know we had a lot of discussion surrounding question 1 before it was put into a transcript, and obviously there's a lot of discussion going on now, and especially with the other 2 questions, talking about it, kind of doing group work, putting the question together, and then each of us can kind of add a little bit of input in the presentation of them. So we have really enjoyed putting together the evaluation questions this year.
The main editing software we used to edit the music video was Final Cut Pro, and our storyboard was put together on that as well.
The animatic storyboard.
Yeah, the animatic.
Going for my experience of Final Cut, one of the biggest things that I used was the colour correction, because the video obviously starts completely black and white, and as kind of the story has a more positive vibe to it, colour begins to seep through. And the way that we did this is we changed like the heat and the black and white ratio of the video per shot, so each shot went up slightly, so it was a slow process of going through each shot and increasing it by a few every so often. So it was going through each shot individually to colour correct it. So we used so many different shots throughout the whole video, and each one changing was a long process.
Also, just the thing about Final Cut Pro that was really useful for us was it's really precise in cutting from clip to clip, and that was really important because we're making a music video and we wanted it to cut in time to the music, or to have accents, in certain points with perhaps what the band are doing within the shot. So we had to shift clips, around like by a microsecond sometimes. And Final Cut Pro was really great at helping us do that. So our video looks much more in time and kind of in tune with the music.
It's able to look more professional because obviously we're working with an actual band. We want this, we're working with a client. We want this to be as professional as possible. And Final Cut, with its smooth transitions and being able to link it to the music so well, really made it easier for us to be able to make it look more professional.
We were also able, using Final Cut, to put text over the actual images. So in the beginning and the last shot, we decided to display the name of the band and the title of the song whilst the video was actually playing, and Final Cut enabled us to do that, to kind of make it a smoother transition rather than a title and then the video beginning. It just tied it all in much more nicely. And another thing we were able to do was turn off the diegetic sound of the clips that we didn't want when the music was playing, but we found it was really nice to actually have diegetic sound of the band at the beginning and the end, which we were able to kind of turn up using Final Cut to make it more noticeable and kind of make it feel a little bit more personal to the audience. That was a really nice touch.
It's giving the band an identity, which I guess from a music video is what you want when you're listening to someone you're a fan of.
talking about identity as well, one thing that we did was we set up some social media accounts as Magpie Media, the production company.
Yes.
So we had an Instagram account, and we took pictures again with our phones, the shooting days, and of images that we'd produced in relation to the project, in order to kind of imitate, promotion for an actual band in a way a professional production company would do.
And in terms of difficulties that we faced, that was a definite one with the social media, because the band were quite emphatic about wanting this video to be a surprise. It was like a surprise release. We weren't allowed to actually publicise the creation of it.
We couldn't have any ties like that linked any. So any picture that we put on, we couldn't say it was a music video. We couldn't say it was any link to them. No, there could be no links at all. So we had to be very careful, and it had a lot of consideration before posting anything.
And we were able to kind of play on the idea that it was a surprise, so kind of building up, showing the production process, but without saying what it was, and kind of using that more to our advantage rather than, taking it as a bit of an inconvenience.
We actually researched a similar marketing strategy that had been done for one of Coldplay's albums, where they released the album art in advance before even announcing it was to do with them.
Another thing we were able to do with our different social media, especially Instagram when we posted pictures, was Rob was able to kind of come up with a lot of different hashtags which we could put in the comment section of the video, of the image, in order to get it seen by a wider audience. I think you got some good kind of...
Well, I mean, the fact that we're saying things like filming and media and music video, it attracts very specific people who we want to see these kind of posts. So yeah, we had one guy I remember seeing was some Kenyan filmmaker with 10k followers on Instagram, and there's some people in like Hollywood who had again like 10k followers, some around that area. So kind of not huge names, but people who are definitely, it would be nice if anything was to grow of that, but it was interesting able to spread a name quite as easily as we were by just using hashtags in an Instagram post.
And in fact, we found the band through social media as well. We, at the start of this project, we wanted to work with a real band. We thought that would be a really nice way to approach this project, and we all reached out on social media asking, do people know any local bands that would perhaps be interested in us creating a music video for them? And I got a recommendation from a friend, and that's how this whole partnership with the band started.
And it has been so perfect with this band, especially because they've just released the single around the time that we were starting the project. So being able to work pretty much in unison with the band has been really helpful and made it feel very real.
So yeah, that's definitely enhanced our ability to take on this project, the ability to be able to talk about it through social media.
Another thing, a few more difficulties that we've had within the process, which we had to overcome. I know you had quite a few, Ed, with kind of with the Photoshop, kind of difficulties with especially the poster, not being able to kind of send it because it was such a big file. So different things that we had to overcome. And learning curves, definitely.
A lot of it, I think, a lot of the struggles we had was just simply a learning curve, because none of us have ever gone for such a big project or used the editing software in such a big way. So I think the whole project was a learning curve for us all. So we were all able to overcome that, which was exactly what we wanted from this.
Yeah.
We also encountered some challenges with the sound. When we sent the video to the band, they reported back saying that the sound was distorting, so which was another issue which we had to resolve. We found that it was actually turned up on Final Cut, which was causing it to distort when it was being kind of compressed.
It had to kind of be the file itself, to be able to send it to the band, was slightly smaller than the Final Cut, so some things, the sound just took a toll on that. It didn't sound like it was distorted or any problems on Final Cut, but as soon as we exported it, the file would shrink a bit, and then that just caused problems with the sound. But we were able to fix that easily as soon as the problem was pointed out to us.
So that was definitely something which we were kind of able to overcome. And then the other issues that we had within the construction of the video itself was obviously the lighting with the band, the lighting. We did some shooting at night in Leeds. So that was just, a matter of us working out the best ISO and the way we kind of managed to adjust to the different lighting conditions that we had, which enabled us to get the best quality image possible.
I think with the band, when we were shooting the band, I think if we were to go back and redo that in an ideal world, we could use extra technology with proper lights. Just the fact that it was such a dark room with like the walls were red and black, and it just doesn't help. And if we had proper lighting like normal studios do, then that would have definitely helped increase the quality of the actual picture in that scene.
But that said, there were lots of features on the cameras that enhanced our work. One of the things we really liked was the manual focus option that we had on our cameras. And the manual settings as well as a whole, which meant with manual focus we could get focus pull shots, which there's a couple of examples in our video of those, and we really liked the look of them. They look really professional and really modern, and really beautiful to look at as well.
We also managed, when we were kind of learning the ropes with the cameras, it was Christmas in Leeds, so we managed to get a few nice kind of soft focus shots of the different lights, which was a really nice feature of the cameras, and we were able to make good use of that particular technology to enhance our work, which was a really nice touch.
It's also fantastic that those cameras exist now to the point where you can just go around and film handheld to a really high standard. Handheld footage was something that was really important to our video.
Well, I mean, majority of the time that we were in Leeds, we were solely using tracking shots of us just following either James or the other actors that we were using, following them. So the fact that we were able to follow them while walking at a steady pace and keeping the camera really quite steady for handheld shots definitely helped us put our storyboard put it into real life.
We also made good use of the Final Cut. We were able to use that to enhance our video, as we've already spoken about, through the colour correction, the precise transitions, the text. That was all used to the best of our ability to make a really nice effect on the video. And we also made very good use of Blogger. We used it to document the process, keep everything contained, easy to follow. We were able to use it for analysis. So when we were actually able to analyse the video, analyse the audience research, the different things we found off YouGov, and then refer back to it within the process to make sure that we were always sticking to our intention, making sure we were always appealing to our target audience. So that, again, was a very good use of that particular technology.
Yeah, it was great at putting all our resources, in place.
Yeah.
So we can just, where was that music video that had a really nice colour palette? Oh, let's go look on Blogger because we've got a post about it. It was that kind of thing. And then
Blogger was made even easier by the fact that we can use linked lists.
Yeah.
So everything under a certain topic is in the same place, and linked lists overall, it just means it's 2 clicks away from finding the exact post that you want. It just made everything so easy. It was all in the same safe spot, and everything's saved on the cloud or the internet, so it's not going to get lost, or you forget to save, or if your computer crashes, it's still there. It's a very safe soft piece of software to use.
In terms of producing unexpected results, we had lots of nice happy accidents with the camera footage. Melissa mentioned earlier that there were some soft focus shots of Christmas lights where things were blurry. A few of those initially were actually unintentional. They were us trying to focus the camera, but when we looked back, we were like, the shifting in focus is actually really nice to look at. And similarly in the editing process, we added text to the beginning of it, and we used just the default text to put it in as alright, let's put some text in there just for now so we know where it goes. But then the actual simplicity of the text just popping up and disappearing again, we actually really liked and thought was really elegant and fitting of our genre. So we ended up keeping that and just rolling with that kind of aesthetic.
The other thing that we did in the editing process was we uploaded all of our footage of the band, and we kind of layered it, and we found that as we would cut the different parts, we might, cut between a drummer and the bass guitar player, because it was on the different layers, it would cut naturally kind of to whatever was on the next layer below, and sometimes that was really nice, and we'd kind of watch it and be like, did we put that cut in there? But it was actually, we would choose to go with it because it was a really kind of nice jump effect.
Another thing as well was when we were filming the band, we accidentally knocked the tripod a couple of times because we were constantly moving around the space, trying to make sure all the cameras were working. And so we had to step kind of carefully over the tripod legs, and there's a couple of instances where we knocked them and the camera just moves like a tiny bit. But we actually really liked the look this produced. It was similar to some of our research music videos camera work that was like really jolty. And it adds to the kind of physicality of the music, you know, the feeling of the rock music.
I mean, in some cases it does kind of almost like a drum beat. It's because it's such a sudden movement, it almost links to that loud drum effect, which this song features heavily.
You can see that a couple of times.
And in that same strain, we had one particular camera which we had two kind of static shots, one run through, and we decided to have a third camera which was always moving, depending on kind of who was singing, who had an instrument kind of solo. And there's a few times when we've looked at the footage from that camera and it will be like zooming in on someone, and that was actually, it wasn't intended to be used, but it was a really nice kind of movement with the music. So that was something else that we decided to put in there. Where is the question of how much the technology enhanced our work? I mean, considerably. It kind of enabled us to do the work.
There's so many different things, so like the camera especially in Final Cut, I think those kind of programs, without them, the quality of the work would be nowhere near, like even to the best of our ability. If we were using anything else, I think that the quality of the video itself would just be so much lower than it is now.
Yeah,
definitely.
There was practically nothing that we wanted to do that we couldn't, technically. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, if we wanted to consider doing a time lapse, we had the GoPro option. If we wanted to consider doing a shift in colour, you know, Final Cut lets you do that. So, apart from, like Rob said, camera quality, we had pretty much full, like, capability to really approach it however we wanted, which was really, really liberating and helped us a lot.
It was just so free. We could suggest any kind of idea, and there was an easy solution to bring it to life. And that's a process that I've never been able to be in, it was so liberating. Like I said, it was just great to be in that position. And
you can really see it when you kind of look at the initial storyboard that we created and the video. You can see some of the direct kind of matches with the shots that we'd imagined and the shots that we were able to create, and that was thanks to the technology that we were able to use within the video.
So our technical ability didn't really limit us. It helped us more. It was an enabler.
Yeah.
I think there was a learning curve behind all of that as well, our technical ability. The fact that we were able to use different and new programs, our technical ability didn't hinder us. We were just able to improve on it and learn throughout the whole process, which I think is a very important thing.
I think our technical ability definitely grew along with the video. So if there was something that we were unable to do, we would never just not do it. We would always be able to find the means to learn how to do it and add that into our video if that was what we so intended. We definitely, I mean, the clearest example, we definitely learned a lot about Photoshop. I mean, you can see it in the progression of the different images.
That was another example. We knew what we wanted it to look like, but we were kind of all like, oh god, how on earth can we get a magpie with leads perfectly inside it, but sometimes you can see the magpie, but sometimes you can see the city, but it overlaps, but it doesn't look too much, but it's colourful, and the layering options in Photoshop, you know, helps us do that, and that was really fantastic. So in conclusion, the products we've ended up with, we're all just so happy with. And
it's more than we ever, in the original ideas, it's more than we thought we could ever produce.
We're very happy. We definitely learned with the technology. We used the technology as much as we could to enhance the video. It definitely did. We were able to make good use of what we had and kind of overcome the difficulties that we faced, which, as there would be in any process, there was definitely difficulties, but we were able to work through them and definitely put the work in to grow in our own ability in order to solve those difficulties which we were faced with.
I mean, the work that we put in was simply just learning more about the technology we were able to use, and then it gets to a point where it's so much easier to use that it is just the effects are clear to see when it's easier to use. We understand it, we enjoy using the software much more, and the effects of those things just are really shown.
Yeah. Kind of got things that we learned about Final Cut. We learned how to use the cameras at a much more advanced level from last year. We learned how to use a SurveyMonkey, which we had never used before, in order to get wider audience feedback than physically just printing one out. So we were able to use that technology combined with the media platforms in order to kind of spread that and get a much bigger kind of audience response. And similarly with the audience feedback, like for the video, we created another SurveyMonkey. We were able to put that with a link to the video in order to, again, get a lot more response than we would have done if we were just kind of physically showing people the video and asking for feedback.
Yeah.
So we were able
the ability of using the internet manages to spread our name and our like message or whatever we want so much further. We've shown that with the SurveyMonkey, the Instagram. Like we've been able to get like not on a massive scale, but we've gone across several different countries, like across the globe. People kind of being able to know what we're doing, and that's so much easier than just simply going to our local area, because we simply couldn't, with just paper or whatever, we couldn't not simply do as much as we've done. That just about covers it, I think. That's good.
Thank you very much for watching this.
Hopefully we've gone through everything and shown that we've been able to develop.
Yes, and overall, we are just very happy with the effectiveness of our work and the use of the media technologies within the planning, the research and the construction of the video.